probably, I don't think he's...
No, he just unmuted his mic.
Okay.
Was a mistake. Please carry on.
Go ahead, Dr. Tadesse.
Please, thank you. Thank you, Hamadi, and thank you everyone for coming. And good morning and good afternoon, depending where you are, and distinguished colleagues, partners, and participants. On behalf of academia and also on behalf of our Executive Chairperson, Dr. Usman Badan, it's my great pleasure to welcome you today to this webinar on connecting knowledge systems and policy process, lessons for Phase 3 CAADP implementation. And this conversation comes at a critical time as we transition to the third phase of CAADP implementation. It's clear that bridging the gap between data, research, and policy is no longer an option. It's essential for accelerating African agri-food system transformation. So without data and evidence, I think we all understand that policy design will largely be a guesswork. So today's dialogue brings together researchers, policymakers, policy planners, practitioners to reflect on how we can better integrate knowledge system into the implementation of CAADP. I mean, making our intervention more timely and more targeted and impactful. As we know, CAADP is a means of cooperation and integration for the realization of the Agenda 2063. So all stakeholders across the continent supporting its implementation should cooperate, and we have to cooperate and deliver on this agenda. There is no room for unnecessary competition, controversies that distract us from meeting our joint objectives. So let our support be guided by facts, data, knowledge, and real action on the ground and complement each other's work. That is the whole agenda of discussion today. So with this note, I want to thank you, our partners, speakers, and all of you joining us today for your commitment to this shared agenda. I look forward to a productive exchange that informs action and strengthens our collective impact. And thank you and welcome you once again. And over to you, Hamadi.
Thank you, Dr. Tadesse. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Tarquin Mezaros, co-leader of the sector project agriculture at GIZ, to deliver his opening remarks. Tarquin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Hamadi. It's very good to see you again. Greetings from Bonn.
Likewise.
It's a great pleasure to open this second session of the KAMPALA CAADP webinar series with all of you, colleagues and partners from across the continent and beyond. Today's theme, connecting knowledge systems and policy processes, is central to what makes public policy effective, grounding decisions in robust data and scientific evidence. When done right, this enhances policy quality, effectiveness, and legitimacy. An example from our own work in German Development Cooperation is the accompanying research carried out around Germany's special initiative, One World, No Hunger, and its successor, the Special Initiative on Transformation of Agricultural and Food Systems. The insights generated through this research have informed how the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, BMZ, has refined its strategies. The message was clear. Technical interventions alone are not enough. We need systemic approaches, politically anchored, based on inclusive, country-led analysis and transformation agendas. And this brings us directly to CAADP. In the CAADP context, knowledge systems have a long-standing and highly strategic role. The formulation of National Agriculture Investment Plans, NAIPs, or National Agri-Food Systems Investment Plans, as they might be called now, for example, is typically preceded by extensive analysis, sector diagnostics, needs assessments, policy prioritization. These processes are essential for ensuring that investment is targeted, efficient, and aligned with national goals. The CAADP biennial review is another standout process in this regard. It is a rich source of data and a comprehensive tool for accountability and peer learning across countries, and offers a wealth of information for improving national policy processes. Over the past years, we have seen a broadening of the African knowledge ecosystem, which is a very positive trend. Networks like FARA, FANRAPAN, ANAPRI, and PANAP are enriching the policy landscape with African-generated research and evidence. This shift is not only about capacity, it's about ownership, power, and emancipation. We need to acknowledge that the ability to generate, manage, and use one's own data and knowledge systems is fundamental for sovereignty in policymaking. In this context, let me especially highlight the outstanding role of Academia 2063 through initiatives like RESAX, the African Agriculture Trade Monitor, the AgroDep Network, or their participation in the Malabo Montpellier panel. Academia is making important contributions to data-driven agricultural transformation. In the CAADP process specifically, we believe Academia 2063's technical support has been critical, from the development of the KAMPALA CAADP agenda through facilitating the technical working group process on behalf of the African Union, to analytical support for the domestication and implementation of CAADP across AU member states. As GIZ, we are proud to be partnering with Academia 2063, not only but also in the CAADP context. Through the BMZ commissioned global program, Sustainable Agricultural Systems and Policies, AXIS in short, GIZ supports this webinar series, CAADP implementation in 6 AU member states via in-country GIZ teams, and in 2 of those, Academia 2063 provides in-depth country diagnostics to build a strong evidence base for the implementation of the new Kampala CAADP agenda in these countries. So we are very grateful to be part of this effort and to be learning alongside you. I'm very much looking forward to the upcoming discussion and the insights from our panelists and presenters. And with that, Hamadi, I'm happy to hand back to you. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much, Mr. Meszaros, for these welcoming remarks. I would like now to invite my friend, His Excellency Dr. Ildefonso Musafiri, who is advisor to the African Union Development Agency, AUDA NEPAD, on agriculture and food system, to share his opening remarks. Dr. Musafiri, you have the floor.
Thank you, Dr. Hamadi, for the floor. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon from where I'm sitting. Greeting from Rome. As you can see, I found a corner here in Rome. I'm connecting from Rome, and I'm sorry that I won't be able to stay with you all along the meeting, because I have to join other sessions here. But I'm happy to meet you all, and I've seen my friend Boaz here there, so I'm really happy to connect on this special series. Despite all in the great pleasure to participate in the Kampala CAADP series and deliver and say some few words representing the AUDA NEPAD family in general. So allow me first of all to appreciate what Academia 2063 has done through the vision leadership of Badiane Usman, for the commitment and the pivotal role in supporting the comprehensive agriculture development program. Since we started these CAADP processes, Academia 2063 continue to provide essential data-driven insights that enable effective policymaking and significantly enhance our collective effort towards agri-food system transformation across the continent. So we adopted the first CAADP in 2003, but we realize that some remarkable strides have been made, but yet we still have some substantial challenges, of course. Now, as we embark on implementing the Kampala CAADP declaration, so we underscore the indispensable role of robust data systems analytics. So clearly, we all know that agricultural productivity and sustainable transformation that are the backbone of this new strategy. So they hinge on evidence-based decision-making. And we all know that to achieve CAADP objective demands precision in data collection, analytics, and knowledge systems. So our NEPAD plays a strategic role in coordinating and implementing continental framework, such as CAADP. Of course, the one prioritizing integrated agri-food systems. The declaration mandates innovative and transformative approaches to leverage agriculture as driver of economic growth and improve the livelihoods. Central to this mandate is the effective utilization of knowledge systems to accurately diagnose challenges and devise precise interventions. So, gentlemen, as Takin mentioned, today's discussion on the role of knowledge systems, it underscores their capacity to leverage historical data, contextual understanding, and analytics to drive meaningful policy outcomes. That's why I urge Academia 2063 and all stakeholders to deepen engagement with the NEPAD, ensuring the continuous generation, management, and use of relevant data and evidence, because generating is not enough in itself. So we need also to engage member states to use this evidence, particularly focused on the identified flagship project. For example, at the NEPAD, in these days, we are thinking how we can better implement the CAADP, and we are proposing 6 crucial flagships programs to guide the implementation of Kampala CAADP. One is about market systems. We believe that we can't be successful if there is no market for farmers. So we need evidence about that. How can market enhance productivity and food transformation? Second, we need to look into irrigation programs. We believe with the climate change, we can't keep saying farming without consistent irrigation programs, a big infrastructure program to transform the continent, to make sure that we produce all along the year. 3, we can't talk about food systems and environmental systems without bringing in conservation agriculture program. So we need evidence to be spread. How can conservation agriculture bring changes into food systems? Number 4, we have been speaking about finance and insurance. We need to design good agriculture finance insurance initiatives, because it's like a blood. We can't say, for instance, we talk about financing. We are missing about 20% from national budget. But how can we design targeted financial instrument for agriculture? How can we reach out to member states to develop, for example, agriculture-based financial institutions that are dedicated to unblock financing, like the example Nigeria is taking in others? So we need to make sure that we design finance and insurance initiatives that will go across the continent. Number 5, we talk about nutrition, which is also fundamental to this CAADP, but we need evidence. What brings more returns in nutrition? I'm thinking about Africa protein initiatives, where we're focusing more on poultry and aquaculture. We need we know what egg can do. We know what aquaculture fish can do to reduce malnutrition, but these things are very expensive on the continent. How can we, based on evidence, if they are good instruments to reduce malnutrition, how can we now bring these programs? How can you drive evidence around that to make sure that we convince member states to invest in these 2 fields to reduce malnutrition? Finally, but it's about seed system. We need good seeds and the biotechnology programs. We need evidence. So what role good seeds or good seed systems and biotechnology program we play to transform food systems? On these key priorities, we believe if we have more evidence and we preach them across the continent, we'll be able to collaborate. Collaboration with Academia 20 is pivotal in generating robust evidence to inform and strengthen these programs, and adoption by member states. That's what we are here for. We need to guide them, to advise them on the best way to go, the best route to follow, to make sure that we reach the complete transformation of agri-food systems. Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, let me reaffirm that Auda NEPAD is committed to foster strong partnerships and evidence policies that we really actualize the Kampala CAADP declaration. So together, leveraging robust data systems, and strengthening collaborations, we believe we achieve our shared vision, a prosperous Africa driven by resilient and sustainable agri-food system. So thank you again, once again, for having me, and I thank you for your kind attention. So we can speak more maybe in the future, but we don't have much time. And thank you, Diop. Thank you, everyone, for having me, and we wish you a very, very good deliberation. I'm sure we are on the right track. Thank you.
No, thank you, Excellency, for those very powerful, welcoming remarks. Also, thank you to all our thank you also to all the previous one who spoke before you, Tarquin and Tedasi, for also their excellent welcoming remarks. So we'll now move on to the presentation. So I'm excited to introduce Dr. Augustin Wambo-Yamje. Dr. Augustin is very well known in this space. He has been into the agriculture, mostly in the CAADP, the CAADP space for quite some time. Dr. Yamje is the Director of Knowledge System at Academia 2063. So he will be presenting us on Africa at the turning point, the significance of the Kampala CAADP Declaration. Dr. Yamje, you have the floor, and you have 10 minutes. Dr. Yamje, I think you are muted.
Yes, I was trying to. Thank you very much, Dr. Job. Let me share my screen once again. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Tell me if you're able to see what I'm presenting.
Yes, we can see.
Yes, thank you very much. I have the honor to share with you, following all these powerful submissions from Honorable Minister and previous speakers, to share something on why we believe Africa is at the turning point, to try and refresh our minds about why Kampala is so important for Africa. We know about this, but it's just to try and put together things to help with the other sessions that would be presentations that would spend more time on the role of the knowledge system and the data. Why CAADP and why now? If you recall, CAADP was adopted back in 2003 at a time when Africa was struggling, trying to define its own path to transform development. After political liberation, Africa reminded the world that his economic liberation was yet to be achieved. Agriculture was one of those flagship areas where Africa decided to demonstrate leadership. And so this is how CAADP was brought to life. It was mostly about making sure that there is food on the table, less food insecurity, and later on how agriculture could be transformed. For 2 decades now, Africa has been through this journey of transforming its agriculture. There has been some achievements, including the agricultural GDP growth. But more importantly, we have seen a significant reduction in poverty and improved nutrition across the continent, but also an intensification of intra-Africa trade. Despite all the challenges that we are aware when you look at the figures. So if you are basing your appreciation on the evidence, this is a picture that we are seeing. So for the past 20 years, I was saying things have improved considerably, but there are some challenges, including some that are carried over, but those that are new. The issue of climate change is real. For many years, people said it was a hoax, but not anymore. We are able to witness the manifestations of the climate change in our daily life. All the challenges that as Africa seeks to transform its food system, that Africa is dealing with is a rapid urbanization that is putting a lot of pressure on the limited resources that we have. Next to that is increasing inequality Africa is growing as a very unequal society, which is not something peculiar to Africa, but for us is a really serious issue. So a Kampala declaration is coming at couldn't come at a more opportune time because it was about time for Africa to shift the paradigm after these past 2 decades of trying to transform agriculture. So looking at where we came from and where we are, where are we heading to? Let's take a quick look at the 3 declarations that have so far formed important milestones in this journey, in this quest for Africa to liberate itself from poverty and really embrace a path to transformation and economic growth. Maputo Declaration in 2003 focused more on investment. The famous Maputo 10% declaration on budget allocation to agriculture is what many people remember. But there was also an innovative element in that. Countries committed to grow the ag GDP by 6% annually. Moving to Malabo 2014, agri-food system trade was the nexus. The tripling inter-African trade became one of the central elements. But an innovative feature of that was the insistence by African leaders to be held accountable. This is how it was established a mechanism to review every 2 years the performance of countries. With Kampala, we are fully embracing the paradigm shift that I referred to earlier on, which is about food system transformation, not just agriculture, but going beyond. With that came the system thinking, but also the focus on resilience, and more importantly, on inclusivity. How do we make sure that the growth is inclusive? For that, the Kampala has set 6 transformative commitments that has now been that were translated in 22 key targets and 35 intervention areas. So you can see the commitments here. People might say that nothing is really new because these are comments that we are receiving. Those who might be saying that nothing is really new because these challenges are here, what will be new, we will see in a bit, is really what are we doing about the issues that we have been living with. Something that should be recall here is that one of the bottlenecks that Africa journey towards transforming its agriculture has been the limited action on implementation, not our ability to diagnose what the issues were or to profile the most effective tools or instruments to help transform the picture, but how much more can we really do on the ground? This is where we have struggled a lot. So for this new declaration, the goals and targets are very bold. Agriculture is, Africa is committing to grow agri-food output by 45% and reduce post-harvest loss by half and continue by tripling intra-African trade and mobilize hundreds of billions of US dollars and maintain the government 10% spending to agriculture. Zero hunger is something that we very much still pursuing, but making sure that as we do that, we reduce child stunting and wasting by 25%. We would like to see 30% of the land to be used under sustainable management. And also, this is something that is really pushing, demonstrating our commitment as a continent. We would like to see 40% of households that are climate resilient. But more importantly, countries should be able to adopt the declaration and translate into the National Agricultural Investment Plan by 2028. So what really sets Kampala apart from everything else, apart from Maputo and Malabo? The holistic approach that was used. is something that is to be mentioned because it goes beyond agriculture to food systems, to integrate climate change, trade, and equity. This is something that we didn't see come out that clearly in the previous declaration. This process that led to the declaration was very inclusive through multi-stakeholder consultations, including a wide range of stakeholders, CAADP constituencies. Again, it was evidence-based. It's not really the first time, but the amount of energy involved in this, in making sure that we didn't leave any single stone unturned, is what is really impressive. Reliance on evidence to be able to set the agenda is something that Kampala can be recognized for. So now, this time around, we have a theory of change and result framework upfront. In previous experiences, we tried to get to this level down the line. So upfront this time, it was already there. When you look at the integrated policy package, it's really impressive. Not only you have a declaration, but you already have a 10-year strategy and action plan, but also clear elements on how implementation and accountability will work. Lastly, but not least, the strong alignment with the global agendas, which Africa is also part of, your SDGs, United Food System Summit, AFCFTA, common position, and so on and so forth. So this shows you what is really unique about Kampala. Now it has to be domesticated. For Kampala to work, countries have to adopt.
Dr. Wambo, I will
Yes.
invite you to really go to the essential and wrap up for the interest of time. Thank you.
Yes. So important steps will include domestication. Domestication will involve several elements, as you can see here. Analysis goal, Minister mentioned that earlier on, the importance of making sure that we use evidence. But as we do that, there are challenges to be anticipated. We're still living in an environment where institutions are fragmented, and when you are still struggling to build policy coherence. Data systems are weak, technical capability to handle data limited. We are vulnerable to climate change, especially for smallholders. And ownership is also a challenge, but there are enablers for success. For instance, by having in place interministerial platform, innovative financing, the minister mentioned that, but making sure that we bet on the youth, women, and local extension services. If we go to the extent of mobilizing technology, we stand a chance of making sure that we are able to get this process on track. Now, what are the policy considerations to conclude? We have to make sure that we are very intentional about integrating the institutions. About inclusivity, we should stop paying lip services, making sure that implementation is happening really where it should and where it matters the most. It has to be localized. We have to innovate the financing, making sure that delivery this time is really result-oriented. The capacity and knowledge shouldn't be a by the way, it has to be built into the system. We should continue with the accountability process that we have been supporting for the past 10 years and even more, where the biennial review and the joint sector review mechanism have been helping to monitor, report, and adjust. Final takeaway. Kampala Declaration is really bold when you look at what it stands for compared to what was there before. The challenges people are seeing, as I indicated, the issue we know, they seem to be the same, but with the understanding of how they are impacting our ability to transform the food system is making the difference. So we have to make sure that our success is driven by inclusive implementation. As I indicated, implementation was one of those weakest links into the overall equation. As a knowledge institution, academia is standing ready to working with partners to continue to develop the data, the tools, and facilitate the dialogue platforms that will help us transform the picture. With this, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you. Over to you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
No, thank you, Dr. Augustine. Laye, I would like for you maybe to confirm on the chat box that the presentation will be made available to the participant. So
that is correct.
So that when I cut off like some of the presentation, because I didn't cut off Dr. Wambo, so that people can go to those presentation for reference. So with that in mind, let me thank Dr. Augustine for his brilliant presentation. It was very rich. So let me now move to the next one, and I would like to invite Ms. Titsi Makombe, who is the Director of External Relationship at Academia 2063, to present on lesson learned from implementing the CAADP binary review process under the Malabo Declaration. Ms. Makombe, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
All right, wonderful. Well, good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to share with you some insights from a CAADP policy brief titled Lessons Learned from Implementing the CAADP Biennial Review Process under the Malabo Declaration. This brief is co-authored by myself and John Olumwengu of IFPRI and Grino Machaya of INO. So essentially, in terms of objectives for this policy brief, we thought to assess key insights and lessons learned from the CAADP biennial reviews under the Malabo Declaration, and then outline some recommendations for different CAADP stakeholders to guide the design, refinement, and implementation of upcoming biennial reviews under the Kampala Declaration. We did this by reviewing existing literature, past CAADP biennial review reports, studies, as well as drawing on the experience of research in providing technical support to the CAADP biennial review process. So in terms of an introduction, as most of you know, the CAADP biennial review process is the African Union's main mutual accountability tool for tracking the progress of African Union member states in implementing CAADP. The biennial review was launched under the 2014 Malabo Declaration, specifically commitment number 7, which is the commitment on mutual accountability to actions and results. The recently adopted Kampala CAADP Declaration calls on the African Union Commission to continue CAADP biennial reviews starting in 2027. So really, the CAADP biennial review represents a mechanism for rallying stakeholders, both state and non-state actors, to hold each other accountable on shared CAADP commitments and deliver on agri-food system transformation goals. So here I have a graphic that shows the biennial review cycles under Malabo. So far, 4 biennial reviews have taken place and have been completed. The first biennial review took place in 2017, and currently countries are undertaking the 5th and final biennial review under the Malabo Declaration, and the report associated with this review is expected to be launched in early 2026. And here it's a diagram really representing the CAADP biennial review process and highlighting some key steps. And these are the steps we're looking at as we sort of sought to assess some of the lessons learned from implementing biennial reviews. The steps range from conducting a critical analysis of a previous BR so as to refine the BR technical guidelines, indicators, and tools. It includes training of BR country and regional focal points, all the way to launching the BR data collection process in the country, to data and review processes, and then to the submission of the preparation of the main report and its submission through the AU systems. So I'll just, in the interest of time, I'll just jump into some of the lessons we are learning from 4 completed cycles of the biennial review. So there is evidence to show that the biennial review has triggered policy and programmatic changes in countries following the launch of the Continental Biennial Review Report. For example, countries like Cote d'Ivoire and Niger, they've introduced initiatives to spur private sector investment in the agriculture sector and spur agricultural productivity. Other countries such as Togo, they've actually incorporated some of the BR indicators in their national agriculture surveys. And Mozambique has introduced new programs to empower youth and women in agriculture. These are just a few examples. A lot of these programmatic and policy changes, they've been highlighted in CAADP biennial review briefs that are produced by the research team following each binary review process. Another lesson we are learning is that there is inadequate staffing as well as inadequate M&E and analytical capacities at the regional economic community and country levels. So the staff that are supporting the BIARA process, they're understaffed. There's also high staff turnover, which really limits the having a timely and efficient process. And M&E and analytical capacities are especially critical for supporting the data reviews, analysis, and computation of indicators. And also actually on the capacity, typically at the country level, you have maybe less than 5 people who are supporting this process. And REX, it's usually maybe just 1 person, which really severely impacts the timeliness of the process. Also, the country process has faced frequent delays and it remains largely underfunded. Delays have been due to, at times, the country BIARA roadmap being constantly changed, countries facing political and organizational challenges, and the underfunding has really come out when countries are not adequately funding BIARA training, BIARA data collection, as well as BIARA data validation workshops in their countries. There is need to promote BIARA data awareness and data uptake. Actually, there was a recent study done by Avant, which shows that following the launch of the Continental BIARA report, there's been inadequate dissemination of BIARA findings at the country level. And also, there's really been limited accessibility of this data as it is not publicly available. And awareness of the BIARA data and findings is quite limited, especially at the country level. There are also limitations that we've seen with the BIARA scorecard methodology itself. The simplicity of it is really appreciated in terms of how it, it sort of assesses whether a country is on track or not on track. But there are limitations remaining, especially regarding the use of equal weights and the assigning of 0 scores. So assigning equal weights in the system can actually bias the results towards maybe commitments that are easier to achieve, and assigning 0 scores for not only missing or data that is not available, but also for falling below a benchmark. This can encourage maybe countries to not report low performance, since that and as well as missing data receive a 0 score. There is need to strengthen BIARA data systems and data quality. And really, countries, I think the BIARA reports, the 4 completed BIARA reports that have been published, they all really have underscored the weak data systems and the challenges that countries face in terms of limited data availability, data access, data coordination, interoperability, and timeliness of data. And missing data remains a big problem. For example, during the 4th BIARA process, out of the 49 countries that were reporting, the average reporting rate was 59%, which really shows that over a third of the data was not reported on. Another key lesson is that the electronic BR, the eBR, that was introduced in 2019 in time for the 2nd biennial review has been a game changer for data entry and analysis. As some of you may remember, during the inaugural BR in 2017, the process was manual and time-consuming, but the eBR really introduced a lot of efficiency by making it much easier to enter data, process the data, and automatically generate scores. It also really allows for instant review and validation by regional economic communities and AUC. And the eBR has also really played a significant role in helping to reduce some of the data quality issues through some of the features that have been introduced to detect, for example, outliers, mandate data sources, and so on. And country data clusters that have been set up by RESACS in the countries that it provides support to have played a critical role in crowding in data sources, filling data gaps, and improving data quality. So essentially, data clusters are made up of different institutions who are organized into clusters around the Malabo thematic areas. So they support the country BIARA team with data collection, review, validation. Actually, they serve as the first line of validation before the data goes to the national validation workshops, which really helps to improve data quality. Then next, I'll move into some of the key recommendations we have for CAADP stakeholders. There is need to prioritize addressing remaining data quality issues by improving data governance, coordination, and management. This will really require concerted effort at all levels, country, regional, and continental level, to improve the data quality, the reliability and usability of the data. Countries need to adopt coherent data policies, as well as data standards and protocols to guide the data collection, review, analysis, and reporting, as well as also provide metrics for quality checks. And on this one, the African Union Commission needs to harmonize the biennial review critical analysis to ensure that the critical analysis across different thematic working groups is uniform in terms of the reviews and the data quality checks that are performed there. And also, there's been an emphasis typically, I think, to focus on the scores. There's also really need to report on the underlying values, then, as this can really help to highlight remaining data issues and really call for action to address those issues. There is need to sustain and expand the data clusters to more countries.
Ms. Makombe, can I ask you to speed up a little bit?
Yes, yes, thank you. I will do that. So this data clusters have been set up currently in 10 countries, but certainly given their role in improving data quality, they can certainly be expanded. There's also need to strengthen M&E capacities at both the REC and country level. This can be supported by technical partners by providing targeted short-term training, as well as technical support. We need to make sure that the scorecard methodology is robust so that it addresses some of those challenges I mentioned in terms of the use of equal weights and how the assigning of zero scores. This can introduce differential weighting system. And also, it's critically important to have smart indicators going forward, as there are plans to now work on a new CAADP results framework and BR indicators. So this will really help to ensure that indicators are sufficiently collected, measured, and monitored. And then continuous improvements to the EBR are quite critical, especially as new indicators might be added on, and also it will be quite important to improve the functionality as well as the user interface and interoperability of the EBR itself. I mentioned the issue of awareness, so certainly we need for effective strategies to promote, to basically communicate, disseminate, and advocate around the BR awareness and also improve its utilization. Here, the African Union Commission can come up with guidelines to guide all different types of stakeholders on how they can engage in the BR process as well as support it. And on data utilization, I think it's important also for the African Union Commission to come up with a clear data policy that makes sure that the data is accessible and also transparent. And data validation workshops need to be inclusive. They play such a critical role. When you have more stakeholders involved, they can really help to improve data quality and the validation processes. And another key recommendation that I have here, I'm about to wrap up, is the importance of integrating the BR with national and regional review and M&E mechanisms. This includes embedding the BR process in agriculture joint sector reviews so that findings from the BR process are regularly taken up in joint sector reviews that likely meet more frequently, and also integrating the BR with M&E systems at the country and regional levels will make sure that data from National Bureau of Statistics and from regional M&E systems flows into the EBR and actually also encourage interoperability and access. There's need to foster senior leadership of the BR process at the country. This really can help to elicit buy-in and support, as well as funding from government and other key stakeholders to support the process. And the last recommendation I have here is the need for countries to adequately fund the BR. This is quite critical to make sure that they fund the data collection, the data training, as well as the validation workshops. And this will require aligning the BR process with country budgeting and policy planning cycles to make sure that it is the funding for it is allocated is needed. So really, in conclusion, the BR process has been proven to be quite a powerful tool in for enhancing mutual accountability and driving progress. So to make sure we really use it going forward in a way that is impact, it's important to make the improvements in terms of data quality, strengthening data governance, institutional coordination and capacities, and adopting the recommendations that we've provided here would really help to make sure that the BRA remains a high impact accountability tool that drives investments, informs policies, and accelerates progress towards agri-food system transformation goals. Thank you so much. Back to you, moderator.
No, thank you, Ms. Makombe. We have really gone 5 minutes already over this session, and we still have one more presentation. So I would like really to request the indulgence of our participant. These are very key, important presentations. So I have, let me now invite the last presentee, Mr. Wonwo Sentefera, who is a senior scientist at Academia 2063, to present on leveraging data and analytics for accelerated agri-food system transformation. And really, again, invite him to just go to the most essential slides, and so that for the interest of time, we can move on to the next agenda item. Thank you for the understanding. Mr. Tefera, you have the floor.
All right. Thank you, Ahmed. All is well noted. Let me share on my screen. I hope now it's in presentation mode, right?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'll be presenting this which is the third brief which has been published today, and it has been co-authored by Dr. Augustine Wambwe-Amju, Mr. Babakar Sise, and myself, all from Academia 2063. This is the outline of my presentation, but let me jump and go directly into the introduction section. And the starting point here is, that evidence-based planning, implementation, and monitoring is critical for building a resilient agri-food system. And for this, data and analytics are essential. But the performance that we've seen in the last two CAADP period is there is a challenge in terms of availability, accessibility, and timeliness of quality data. For example, data at country level, they may not be available. If they are available, they may be in scattered point here and there. And there is also challenge in limited technical capacities or expertise at that country level. So based on this, the focus of this presentation, which also have a Kampala implication, is to review what were the issues around leveraging data and analytics during the CAADP period in facilitating evidence-based approach based on the challenge I just mentioned, and how has this issue been addressed, and what lessons have been learned, and how can they be harnessed. All right. So first, what we'll do is here we'll briefly see the historical role of data and analytics providers and technical experts in Africa in the past two CAADP periods. And I will start with the performance regarding the country data ecosystem. And it has been mentioned earlier by Tsetse Makombe about this issue, so I'll be very brief. And we know that the country data ecosystem, CAADP has advocated for evidence-based planning and implementation, but establishing effective country data ecosystem remains a challenge. In the last 4 BRs, there has been significant data missing, data quality issues. For example, in the last BR, in the 4th BR cycle, 40% of the data was missing. In addition to that, from the available data, there were different quality issues like outliers and so on. So data quality issue challenged for a number of countries not to do not to see the progress that they have making. In fact, in the first BR report, it was mentioned that half of the countries that reported in the BR process, the data that they have was not able to, would not allow them to do a thorough analysis of their progress simply because of data quality issue. So because of this, there are several programs and projects have been in place in the past 2 CAADP periods. The main ones that I would like to mention are the RISACs, the AgroDep, and related issues. So in 2006, RISACs was established to address the data gap that I just mentioned, which is still going on. And the RISACs was instrumental in providing access to data, analytical tool, and knowledge products to support the CAADP. Based on during the Malabo period, a number of indicators were in place to be monitored, and RISACs has been monitoring more than 30 plus indicators that are part of the CAADP result framework indicators. These data were collected from secondary sources, from country and international databases. So assembling different data from different sources into one platform so that countries and regions can access and utilize them was one of the activities that took place. And findings of the CAADP result framework indicators that are collected and analyzed are regularly reported through the annual trends and outlook report that RISACs publishes every year and release it during the RISACs annual conference. And for example, and in addition to that, also utilize the RISACs annual online platform where all the data is available there, and we can select an indicator and countries, and automatically it will produce maps and charts which can be used for our reports and so on. So this was one of the initiatives that has been in place. But this is from a regional or from a continental point of view. But to address the data and analytics demand at country level, RISACs established strategic analysis and knowledge support system at country level. These SACs, what they do is they broker strategic analysis and knowledge, connecting demand and supply. There are knowledge suppliers like universities, statistics office, research centers, and so on. And through through SACs, the data and analysis will be made available to policymakers and decision makers. And in the past, more than a dozen countries or country SACs platforms were operationalized for like 14 countries by RISACs. And these SACs nodes achieved notable successes in terms of availing data and analytics, fostering coordination among policymakers, stakeholders, and data holders. And in addition to this, RISACs supported the SACs structures to develop into a fully fledged land. And in the interest of time, I will go to the other issue. It's not only data that is also lacking, but also the analytical capacity. So in 2010, AgroDep Modeling Consortium was established. AgroDep stands for African Growth and Development Policy Modeling Consortium, to enable a critical mass of economic modelers across Africa. What it does is it facilitates the use of economic modeling tools, training, research, and so on for modelers in Africa. And currently we have 300 AgroDep Modeling Consortium members from 36 countries, and 28% or 84 of them are women. And it currently operates in 6 thematic areas that are greater interest to KAMPALA, such as on SCPS, on impact evaluation, on value chain analysis, on climate change, on intra-Africa trade, and so on. The other one that I would like to raise is the accountability mechanism. As we know, since the inception, CAADP was promoting accountability mechanisms, and one of the issue that has been mentioned, for example, in the previous presentation, was the issue of data challenge during the inaugural or during the first cycle of the BR in 2017. And RISAC supported AUC and developed the electronic binary review, which facilitated the accountability in the sense that data are available. Initially, data were not in the first BR cycle. Data was manually entered, and that resulted in errors and so on. And the introduction of the electronic binary review, what it does is countries were able to enter data into the platform, and based on its backend infrastructure, without error, the EBR computes reports and generates the reports at country, regional, and at continental level. And this EBR is updated each cycle based on the technical feedback and lessons learned during the previous BR cycle. So this has improved the mutual accountability that was going on under CAADP. The other one is the joint sector review that countries do, and agricultural joint sector review, as we know, it serves as an essential component of mutual accountability within CAADP. And RISACs in the past several years have conducted GSR assessments in 21 countries and 2 regs in order to improve the GSR, in order to make it regular, robust, comprehensive, and inclusive. And results from this GSR assessment have offered valuable insights into the country GSR process. As you know, integrating GSR and BR is one of the issues that is highlighted in the CAADP Kampala, and therefore learning from the experience of RISACs on the GSR assessment will be very much important and helpful. The other accountability mechanism, as we know, is knowledge institutions or centers of excellence have been deployed in the past 2 CAADP periods to provide capacity. For example, the Maputo period, CAADP pillar lead institutions were deployed. And during the Malabo period, 7 CAADP technical networks were deployed to provide technical support and capacity building during the Malabo period. And recently, for the past Malabo development process, 13 technical working groups were established, and the assessment that have been made recently shows that these technical working groups have been effective in bridging the data gaps. So we have to learn a lot from the accountability mechanisms that have been done, and also the AgroDep, the RISACs, the SACs, and so on. So in summary, the basic policy lessons that we should leverage from the foregoing experiences include: 1, it's critical to institutionalize knowledge sharing. In this regard, reinforcing country-level data ecosystem is critical. And the Kampala Declaration also emphasizes the importance of reinforcing country-level data ecosystem. But in addition to that, to improve the availability and of data and analytics at country and regional level, it's important to deploy, especially at country level, local analysis networks that are properly resourced, well institutionalized, and linked to the official country data system for effective country BR process. The other one is, it's important, the lesson we have learned is leveraging African experts in economic modeling is important. We know that economic modelers will remain central to help translate the Kampala CAADP agenda into concrete actions. So leveraging African expertise, such as those of the AgriDip approach, is critical because it provides data and analytics for analysis on the Kampala CAADP period. The other one is strengthening the interoperability of the EBR. This has been also mentioned by the previous speaker. We know that scaling the use of the EBR beyond the CAADP indicators and strengthening interoperability with REX and national platforms is important because the EBR, it will continue providing support for the CAADP BR, but it will also be important to utilize the EBR for other issues, like from the REC point of view and also from the country's point of view. And the last one is enhancing linkage between technical networks to boost the contribution of the experts in supporting CAADP implementation during CAADP. So thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is all.
Thank you very much for the contribution made by all our in all our presentation. Let me at this point thanks Ms. Makombe, Dr. Yamjo, and Mr. Tefera for the insightful contributions. My takeaway so far is that this past two sessions have focused on the implementation of the CAADP Kampala Declaration. Emphasis was put on data-driven decision-making, inclusive coordination, strengthening African knowledge system. It has highlighted the shift from past declaration to a more integrated food system. Few really highlight from the opening session to the presentation are that act on evidence, not competition. Inclusive systemic approach are needed. Africa must own its own data. Kampala is a bold shift. BR lesson call for reforms, and smarter monitoring is critical. So I want us just to keep these 6 points as we move forward. So we will now transition to our moderated panel discussion. So I'm pleased to introduce our panelists. So we have three of them. Dr. Greenwell Machaya, who is a senior economist and deputy representative for South Africa at the International Water Management Institute, IWMI, and I believe he's based in South Africa. Dr. John Ulumungwe, who is a senior research fellow at the International Food Policy Research Institute, IFPRI, based in Washington, D.C. Mr. Boaz Kesire, Director for Policy and State Capability at AGRA, based in Nairobi. So I want to make this discussion as interactive as possible. So I will engage each panelist with a question, and then I will invite them to respond to each other and share their thoughts. So I will have 2 rounds of questions. So let me start with Dr. Machaya. Dr. Machaya, you have extensive experience with the binary review data collection process. What have we learned from the 4 cycle of the binary review? And also, what are 3 key lessons we should retain for the Kampala agenda?
Thanks very much, Dr. Diop. And also thanks much to all the presenters for wonderful presentations. Yeah, I think over the 4 years that we have carried out the biennial reviews for the CAADP, lots of lessons have been learned, one of which is that obviously the biennial review mechanism has now become a primary mutual accountability mechanism for discussing or for anchoring agri-food system transformation. It is turned out to be very important. When it started some time back, we didn't think that it was going to be like this, but I think now it has gotten a lot of traction. In terms of the three key ones that I can think about, one of them is what Ms. Makombe also, I think, mentioned to do with the data systems. So data systems for now, they remain the weakest point for the biennial review mechanism, meaning that they require deep institutional reform. If you look at across all the 4 biannual reviews, you will find that the issue of data gaps is always there. Data inconsistencies always there, and quality issues are always there. Now, when I say this, I also want to always qualify. If you look at the trends, though, from 2016 to the present, you find that there is a shrinkage in those, but they're there. So there's an improvement owing to the processes that are going going on, but they still are there. So something needs to be done there. And these gaps, in most cases, they really emanate from weak national M&E systems, poor coordination, as well as lack of integration with the electronic biennial review. And why do we say that? We say that because in the course of implementation of this, the biennial reviews, we also undertook some not experiments, but some projects to try and strengthen capacity of countries. So countries that have developed, for example, data clusters like Malawi, Mozambique, Kenya, Senegal, Togo, etc., you find that, yes, they have challenges, but for the periods where the data clusters were strengthened and vibrant, data reporting rates as well as quality improved, and we would be talking about almost close to 10% in terms of reporting rates, etc. And so for the Kampala, we must invest in national data systems, data governance policies, functional M&E systems, and full integration of the biennial reviews with the national level mechanisms, whether they're joint sector reviews or joint sector review-like mechanisms. The second lesson relates to the technical capacity shortfalls for for the biennial review in almost many of these countries, as well as regional economic communities. So, for example, if you go to any country and ask them that who is in charge of the biennial review, they will tell you that, okay, we know there are these people. There might be 3, if you're lucky, 5. In some cases, you would find 1. I wouldn't mention countries, but yeah, and I think that is a weakness. And if you go to the regional economic communities, you might also find that there's 1. We are organizing some meetings somewhere, even right now, and I know the people I'm interacting with in those ranks, very few. We need to build capacity there, because if there is limited capacity, then we are hampering the indicator computation, data validation, as well as responsiveness from those countries when we ask them questions. And again, we kind of had an undertaking where we tried to build capacity for a number of countries deliberately to strengthen their BR teams. You find that in those countries, at least there was some kind of good reporting, and there was an improvement over time. So going forward, I think staffing as well as targeted training is
Dr.
useful.
Machaya, just
Yes.
maybe as you indicated, so the BR mutual accountability process has been good so far.
Yeah.
It came out very strongly from the presentations made by Titsi and also by Tefera.
Yeah.
So you have identified 3 good practices. One was on the data system, and the other one was on the technical capacity shortfall. So as we move forward, how can we really take those lessons that we have learned over the last 4 BR and be practical in terms of implementation in the Kampala?
Yeah. So I think that as we move forward, we just need to make sure that we institutionalize the BR into national systems. They shouldn't be looked at as an appendage. They should be when you ask somebody in the country, they should be able to tell you that, okay, we have a biennial review mechanism and it's part and parcel of what we do. It's funded together with the JSR. There's a budget line in the there's a vote in the national budget that supports the biennial review. I think that is extremely important. And again, as we go forward, I think it would be useful to make sure that for the weakness related to technical capacity, you just make sure that the national planning planning commissions, as well as the directorate for planning in ministries of agriculture, embrace that PR. So they should be them who will be part and parcel of taking care of the biennial reviews. Shouldn't be just that one person. So as we go into the Malabo, the post-Malabo in the Kampala era, we have to make sure that we encourage that. Otherwise, we will be kind of making the same mistakes, which I think is not great. But also, even for us, in terms of the biennial review methodologies that we have, we need to revise some things. I think you might have heard Tsitsi talking about the scoring methodologies. Now, those issues are not as simple, right? So you choose an equal weighting thing because maybe the geometric weighting has some controversies, or an equal weighting has some controversy. But I think as we go into the Kampala, we need to have a conversation among us as technical experts to see which indicators we can have an exception of the equal weighting stuff. We need to introduce some things because it can't be the case that every indicator is equally important in transformation. So if we do that, we bring realism to that.
Basically, I'm taking 2 points here. Based on the lesson learned, if you move into Kampala, we need to institutionalize BR into the national data system, and then we need to build capacity. Let me transition to Dr. Olumungwe. So, Dr. Olumungwe, you were very deeply involved in the Kampala Declaration development. So in your view, how clear and vital do you find the identified targets that Dr. Yamjo presented in his in the previous session? And also, do you find the target and intervention area are designed to achieve Africa agri-food system ambitions?
Well, thank you, Amadi. It's a very important and question. The short answer is time will tell. but
that's not an answer, my friend.
But let me explain the context and how those targets came to be. The overall, I think the starting point was the overall vision for food system, as the previous presenters mentioned. So there's a shift from Maputo Malabo Declaration to the Kampala, and the shift is the shift from agriculture focus to agri-food system focus. So, and the vision, when you read the document, is the sustainable, resilient food system for healthy and prosperous Africa. Well, that is aspirational. It is not clear in using your term. So there was a need to break it down into clear target. And that's where the strategic objectives comes in. It's what are the pathways first? How do we get into that overall visions? You have the 6 pathways, intensification of sustainable agriculture production, agro-industry, trade, the issue around financing and investment, food and nutrition security, inclusivity and equity, the issue of resilience agri-food system, and of course, the new one, which is one of the innovation of the declaration, is on the governance of food system. All the issues around data, around knowledge, fits into that last that 6 strategic goals. So the targets really are now at those 6 strategic objectives. 22 of them And the difference between, because remember those targets, the Kampala Declaration target mirror the Malabo Declaration commitment. Under the Malabo Declaration commitment, we didn't have clear targets at commitment level. For those who remember, we didn't have any target for any of the commitment. We relied on the other performance indicators. So we have those targets. I say time will tell. They were set based on the trend. Some of them are still aspirational. Some of them are based on experiences. And then, so now you have the vision, the overall vision. You have those 6 strategic objectives that gives you the pathways to achieve the vision. You needed interventions, right, for each of them. And so those interventions were set based on best practices within the continent, and of course outside the continent. You know, we are not doing it in the vacuum. We are learning from what others did as well. But to complete the package, to clarify even further the package, you know that there is a process of developing the result framework, which connects almost, I mean, you have the strategic objectives, the interventions, the outcomes, all the way to the vision. So in terms of clarity, in terms of understanding of those targets, hold on, there is more work to be done by end of the year to complete the package.
So basically what I'm taking here is that it is clear and vital that those targets were identified and the intervention areas.
Absolutely.
So it will make life much, much easier based on those 6 pathways that you define, and the results framework. We should be able to have something that is very nicely mapped.
Absolutely.
So, but let me maybe challenge you a little bit here. So based on your experience, what are the type of challenges you foresee in meeting these targets? So it's good to have targets, but what would be the challenges that you foresee in the next 10 years to meet those? Because in the previous cycle, everybody is saying, okay, we have targets within the commitment, not at the commitment level as you indicated, but BR has told us that nobody will be able to meet the target. So now we have new target. So what do you see as a challenge in terms of meeting this target by 2035?
Because, I mean, the series is around knowledge. I think, and the first, because we need to understand the shift. And for us to understand the shift, we need to build that knowledge support for the transformation agenda. What do I mean? First, for each country, because these targets are at continental level, but the actual investment, the actual interventions are happening at country level. So the first challenge is, how do we translate those continental level targets into those national development agendas? And that is very critical. We cannot, and even at national level, if you ask my advice, I would suggest to go even beyond the national average at subnational level. That's one. Second, one of the major, I believe, also challenge is the governance of food system transformation. Who in a given country is in charge of food system transformation? Remember, we are moving from agriculture to agriculture plus, so to speak. You know, we used to have the Minister of Agriculture as the client, so to speak. But now we need to open the box to other entities, you know, to the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Health, the Minister in charge of Food or Nutrition Security, the Minister of Land Affairs, the Minister of Environment. But someone needs to be in charge of that. So the issue of governance, what type of governance is needed? And the link to that, because it's about knowledge, what type of knowledge is needed to support a evidence-driven processes, and who should be in charge of setting up that knowledge support system? How will that knowledge flow across all stakeholders involved in food system transformation? So those what I see. Of course, I'm preaching for my church, the knowledge and research.
No, thank you, John. It's not every day that I have the opportunity to ask question to my friend Boaz. He usually is the other way around. He's one asking me questions, but today I have him on the I have him on the platform. So, Mr. Kesiri, how well does the Kampala CAADP agenda integrate agri-food system transformation from your perspective as the head of policy at AGRA?
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Diop. And but I think your question is both an empirical question as well as an opinion question, to the best of my understanding. And it's always good to sit on this side of the story so that you can be interrogated by you, my dear friends, and my colleagues. But I think I carry a lot of opinions every day, whether I'm walking, whether I'm eating, even my dreams, they're opinion-based. So I think I am going to share my opinion on this based on the following: understanding the whole journey from Maputo to Malabo and then to Kampala. And I think in your summary, Dr. Diop, you mentioned that somebody says that Kampala was a board shift. And that can be unpacked in so many ways. But go back to the story that John Mulumwengu has just been talking about, the whole this mega shift of talking about agricultural transformation, food systems transformation. And between me and you, I think in very many circles, I don't think we've cultivated enough the understanding, a common understanding on what this actually means, other than just mere terminologies. And I really want to appreciate Academia 2063 to begin to bring this kind of webinar series so that we can continue cultivating this knowledge and understanding of what does that mean. And I don't think I'm the best expert to talk about this shift, but John Ilmwengu has been one of our excellent authors around this mega shift to understand. But here is the quick points, just to cut the story short, Dr. Hamadi. I believe that has been a really fundamental change. We listened carefully 2021 on the Whole Food System Summit, coming from the UN Secretary General's directive and guidance. I think Africa was the only continent that took a bold step to develop the common position on food systems. Irrespective of the myriad of countries and different opinions, a common position on this is Africa's position was a bold step as a beginning of cultivating this understanding. Several years, a few years later, the African Union and the African continent, under the leadership of Auda Nepad, together with AU, was the only one to design guidelines, and I say this because I know you are aware, for mainstreaming food system thinking into country national planning processes. I know it remains abstract to listeners, but these are bold steps that the continent takes in terms of clarifying what is this difference that does it make. And just to finish on that particular point, you know, agricultural transformation was about production, distribution, transportation, consumption of food, agriculture. But the triple challenge that maintained, and even if you want to argue that Malabo and probably Maputo had some bit of environment resilience, climate, remember it was in the results framework, it was at the outcome level, but the level of effort, the investments, the tracking, the campaign, the onboarding of many ministries, including those responsible for agriculture, was not as much as the vision and the board shift that the Kampala Declaration is putting forward. So if you look at the biodiversity loss that is compromising advancing food systems agenda or food or agriculture transformation agenda, if you look at the amount of greenhouse gas emissions that are emitted through different types of agricultural activities and how that's compromising climate issues, that will begin to tell you the shift. For example, if you look at and the guidelines that have been developed by the AU NEPAD, that have been adopted by heads of state speak concretely about following through the national determined contributions. These are pledges that countries make in their Paris commitments to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions in a bid to mitigate climate change. But now food and agriculture and food systems and Kampala begins to say, bring back that discussion that is always led by activists in the Ministry of Environment and others into this discussion. Just one example. Talk about the whole issue of nutrition, Hamadi. You remember during the CAADP 1 and CAADP 2, the whole nutrition agenda has been an outcome level, and John Urumang speaks about this well, as an outcome, but in terms of level of effort, engagement of ministers, engagement of ministries, was a little bit peripheral. We kept the comfort zone of working with the ministries of agriculture, ministers of, and it was so comfortable. So that mega shift, I think, is very, very critical, bringing nutrition at the heart of the agenda. If you look at the 6 commitments, for me, food system is amplified in 3 or 2 commitments. Commitment number, I think, 3, that speaks about the whole hunger and nutrition in a more broader sense than the previous Malabo and Maputo. Commitment, I think, number 5, about resilience, broadly in much more to bring into the agri-transformation space, but also the articulation of the indicators and interventions. They speak a food system thinking. So to your point, that's my level of satisfaction that Kampala Declaration was a big shift. Of course, Maputo was a shift. It brought all biennial review, among many other things, which is a really enshrined in the CAADP commitments. I mean, in NEPAD commitments of peer review, we've seen the progress. I think TC and others spoke about this. But I think Kampala was a little bit more broader, and the continent is shaping the rest of the world in understanding what food systems looks like. Of course, we are going to have challenges that John was talking about. I'll finish with this particular point. Bringing the governance of food systems together. I don't think AU is going to be dictating to every country to begin to merge ministries. That's not a likelihood. The structures and the systemic ministries are going to remain the way they are. But the power and the interface for the interconnectivity, one of the countries that I think has become bold now is beginning to dictate from Ministry of Finance to have program budgeting, which is basically it's like a food system budgeting, as opposed to votes that speaks to ministries and sectors. I take my budget, I begin to implement it based on my own ministry vote, as opposed to a program that speaks to the ministerial coordination. So we have to hammer this as activists of agriculture and food system to integrate sectors through budget commitment and mutual accountability. I will edit there, and I know we can speak until the cows come home.
No, I was about to ask you a follow-up question, but I will hold it for the second round, but I'll come back to you. Let me maybe go back to, let's deep dive maybe, and let me maybe ask Dr. Machaya on what are the recurring recommendations from the CAADP brief policies that we should focus on. And I will ask you really to maybe highlight 1, 2, maximum 3 recommendations for the interest of time.
So maybe I can just then list those 3, which are recurring across almost all the 50 briefs that we have authored, plus the one that Tsitsi presented. You find that the one is that national governments must treat agricultural data as a strategic public good, and therefore they must invest in that. All right. The second one is that it is important to expand and institutionalize inclusive data ecosystems, especially data clusters and the local analysis networks. Then the third one is that it is important to translate the biennial review results into decision making, and biennial review results are not an end in themselves. So on the funding part, it's not surprising because you find that agricultural sector, as we said, is generally underfunded. The 10% target that we have in theme number 2, a lot of countries don't achieve it. But even those who achieve it, you find that they still allocate not so much for the biennial review process. And therefore, it's really important that governments must embed the biennial review financing into their national agricultural investment plans to ensure that we can win on that one. And with respect, again, to the institutionalization of inclusive data systems, I think it's useful that data clusters should really be entrenched in the countries. So the data clusters are where you just try to think of the Malabo Declaration, which is just gone as having a number of areas, and around each of those 7 areas, you need to have critical mass of people who are going to inform those areas when it comes to reporting. And these people must continue to do so even outside biennial review reporting times. To do that, it has to be institutionalized. And it would also be useful to try and popularize local analysis networks. Wondwosen presented this concept of local analysis networks. This is an important concept because it tries to broker knowledge in a country between those who need it and those who supply it. In many countries, a lot of wonderful professors produce a lot of work, but that work never gets used for, that data they produce never gets used for decision making. So we need to create those kind of frameworks, local analysis networks, similar to strategic analysis and knowledge support systems. Again, on translation of data into action, this is fundamental. Yes, we did publish some paper as well in the past, which Tsitsi cited, which is showing which countries are using the data and how from West Africa to East to Southern. But I think more can be done. Countries need to do much more in that area. And I feel like they're still not doing that much more, because in the recent biennial review number 4, only less than 50% of the countries did report to us that they were using the recommendations of the BR. I mean, they had implemented the recommendations. So I think we need to do more.
Dr. Machaya, if I'm taking three main key recommendations from you, is that agriculture is a strategic public good and we need to invest into it.
Yes.
2, we need to institutionalize data system.
Exactly.
And 3, we need to translate BR data into
action.
Yes. So let me maybe ask John maybe a very granular question. It's not like a general question. I think John has been working on the BR for quite some time. So maybe I'll ask him what are the key actions that are essential for ensuring consistency in BR data collection. And then let's focus maybe on one particular issue, because you remember Maputo, Malabo expanded agriculture to economic, basically, policies. I basically linked agriculture policies to economic policy by looking at poverty reduction. So what are the actions that are essential for ensuring consistency in BR data collection, particularly regarding extreme poverty, for example?
Well, first, I think we should stop considering BR as an appendix of countries' policy making ecosystem. It should be part of that policy ecosystem. And how do we get there? First, in the process of developing, I hope, the Kampala Declaration compliant NAIP or NASIP, the MNE, the mutual accountability and the reporting process should be embedded within that new NAIP or NASIP. That's very important. In the way that the BR report will come as a report out of that process, the joint sector review process. This should not be something, that, okay, let's wait and then we will report. No. If we do that, if it is embedded within the country's policymaking ecosystem, we will solve the issue of data quality. That is very important. Second, yes, I agree with Greenwell, we need data clusters. But I want to go even further than that. We need food system knowledge clusters. I don't want somebody sitting from the Minister of Agriculture to make a call to the Minister of Finance or Minister of Health for data. No, we will leave those involved in health doing their own thing because they understand the data, they can analyze the data. Those in food and nutrition security, environment, poverty issues, everyone is in knowledge clusters. However, we should build digital, whatever we'll call it, to connect all those knowledge clusters, like a dashboard that whoever will be overseeing food system transformation will be the one reporting to AU as far as BR process is concerned, in a way that it's not an additional burden to the country to report on, because it is part of their own national system. And this is very important, because if it's not good for them in terms of quality or quantity, then it won't be good for the BR as well. So that's, if we can achieve that, I believe at the end we'll have a well-functioning.
No, thank you, thank you. System. I think I'm taking two big messages really from your presentation. I think reporting process embedded in the new NAFSIP and data cluster. So I think for the interest of time, since we took too much into the presentations, and we are supposed to end this basically this webinar in the next 17-18 minutes. So I'm going to ask maybe Mr. Kesire one question, and I want him to be short and sharp. So, Boaz, what opportunity do you see for enhancing advocacy and stakeholder engagement under the Kampala framework?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think this is a big question. You've heard of discussions and comments around the lessons around the whole process of Maputo, Kampala, Malabo. But there's one thing that we need to do more, structured and better: the whole communication and advocacy. Sometimes us as experts, scientists, tend to get comfortable into our analytical capabilities and the rigorous models and thinking, but we forget on where it matters most. This particular work can only be relevant when it is taken into the country. So from an advocacy and communications perspective, we need to shift goals. We need to, I think if you want to give a rating, Malabo was like 80-90% experts and continental organizations. No, Maputo. 80-90%. This is my personal rating, John. This is not based on any analytical modeling. Was 80-90% continental AU. Countries will only hear about it and then they go to do something and they go back to business as usual. I think Malabo shifted the GI a little bit to around 69.85% continental, regional, and the biggest part of it non-country. So this is my recommendation on how we shift this into countries. We need to take the whole advocacy agenda beyond the experts group to look at different advocacy groups in countries. I know we've started, for example, the parliamentarians. Today, the parliamentarians are only excited about Malabo, Kampala declaration only when they come to continental meetings. I say this because I know we are engaging with them to come to big meetings. They want to come to the Africa Food Systems Forum. There is a parliamentary network, but they go back, less of it is talked about. We need to have structured discussions and debates in countries on a particular topic. Let's not even discuss the entire Kampala declaration in one session. Let's discuss on thematic number one, declaration number one, driving productivity, driving agro-industrialization and trade. And it becomes a topic of its own. And we can all take all our efforts as international organizations, experts into that country. Discuss that, shift it to the whole financing and expenditure. And finally, we need to shift policy discussion to politics. We need to link policy and politics together. I think the Kampala Declaration was a little bit shy and used the word the governance of the food systems. I think the politics of food systems. We need to get into that discussion without fear or favor, begin to create scorecards, and going back to the original NEPAD principles of mutual accountability, bring it into countries, and not only the countries, for the board of governments like Kenya, where you have, bring some bit of a competition around where our countries actually advancing which particular agenda and what is the debate. Bring civil society organizations on front. let's make sure that the newspapers are also beginning to adapt to this. They are following political discussions, and they are not bringing agri-food systems and CAADP and Malabo and Kampala as part of the political discussions. They are focusing on a few. Unless you have sponsored articles or interest-based articles, it is read and then it is lost. We need to advance the debate beyond a topic and a sponsored article and then move on. But we need to be in countries much stronger and be topical. And I think this is going to be the game changer for Kampala Declaration.
No, thank you. Thank you for those three well-articulated points on shifting goals, structure, and discussion topics, and then really linking policies to politics. So I think for the interest of time, I'm going to ask, I will take maybe 2 or 3 questions from the floor. There could be questions or discussions. So if any of the participants would like to take the floor, raise your hands, and we will be glad to give you the floor. Laye, can you monitor that?
Yes, Hamadi, there are okay. The 4 hands and 5 questions in the Q&A.
Okay, let's take the 4 hands first, and then the questions I will ask. So if you can summarize the question for me. But go ahead. Let's give the floor to those 4 who have raised their hands.
Okay. Adisu Bekele.
Yeah. Thank you, colleagues. Good afternoon. Good morning. I have 2 questions regarding today's webinar. The first one is, I think, directly linked with Dr. Greenwell presentation about what plans are in place to scale up the use of a digital platform apart from EBR, like AI-driven tools for managing knowledge and improving decision-making in agri-food policy. The second one is for Dr. John. How will the Kampala CAADP strategy ensure sustainable investment in national knowledge management system to support evidence-based planning and reporting? Thank you.
Okay. So can we get the second one? Let's just take all the questions at the same time. And
Paul Gamba. Paul Gamba, go ahead, please.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for the very lively discussions in terms of the Kampala Declaration and the whole EBR and so on. I think for me, I would want to approach it from a practitioner's perspective. Right now, we are working on the Kenya's NIPE 2. And you find there are lots of challenges within this process, especially if you start looking at, okay, first, access to data, which has already been mentioned. I've taken that. But more importantly, the question of how does EBR fit into the development of NIPEs, or the so-called NASIPs now. And the third element is we have not been able to establish the benefits that accrue to countries that use the findings from the BR systems in terms of adjusting the agricultural sector, in terms of transforming the agricultural sector. And so you find that kind of challenge existing in terms of how useful is that information?
Sir, can I ask you? Yeah. Can I ask you, for the interest of time, to shorten it? So I'm assuming here you have 2 questions. The first one is how the EBR fits in the NAFSIP, and the second one, how do we link the outcome of the EBR to policies?
The third one is how picking up or adapting the findings from EBR manifest themselves in agricultural sector transformation. That is something we have not been able to show.
Which is the same as linking BR outcome to policy. Can I ask you maybe to stop here so that we can hear the other one for the interest of time?
Yes. I had just those 3. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Can we hear the third question?
Yes, Christian K. Tiambo. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you. I hope you are getting me well. I'm Christian Chamber from Illinois and Center for Tropical Affairs. And I really appreciated the item raised there on the issue of irrigation not be depending on the rain-fed system, the seed system, which is very, very key for our agriculture and adoption of technologies. But we also can, I think Dr. Yamji mentioned about the change of on the paradigm, the narrative. We should be moving back a bit the aspect of food sovereignty and see how we are adjust the issue of food security also. And when we are talking about this, understand exactly when we are talking about when we have to discuss about local and indigenous or locally adapted seed system technologies and how we adopt what is good, but promote what is also locally affordable to our local communities. One of the key things is also small mechanization. Why is it that we look at the background from the different presenters and we see very beautiful background. This is not because
Christian, can I humbly suggest that you ask your question?
Yes. So what is said in the propositions on the indicators that we are proposing in the CAADP, which are for farmers and which can really be helping us to build the data system that we are talking about. And without data, we'll not be able to really move. So what is there for farmers and how can we practically build data from the ground?
So just for clarity, are you suggesting that maybe we need to involve farmers in data collection?
When possible, because at the end, everything is coming from the ground.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood very well your question. So the last one, can we hear from the last one, Lai?
His hand went down. Divine Intioka, do you still want to ask your question? I see he also left a question in the Q&A, so maybe we can.
Okay, no, it's fine. Let me just maybe give each of our three panelists maybe 90 seconds to react to these questions. Greenwell, you go first, and then followed by John and Boaz.
Okay, so thanks very much. I think the one which was directed to me was also related to the use of AI in data collection. So this is a good point because one, in order to solve some of these data challenges, it's useful to look for other efficient mechanisms. Granted, AI is still experimental, so it can't work everywhere. But I think where it can work, it would be useful to leverage on that. The countries, are also embracing the need for digitization of their data systems. I think you can see several countries talking about development of national agricultural management information systems. So it means that if we start talking about the need for leveraging on artificial intelligence in data gathering, it will be something that they can easily buy. It's also easy to demonstrate the efficiency of this. There's some work that we're doing with Academia 2063 on using AI. Yeah, okay.
I don't mean to cut you off, but can you also, there were a very good question from Paul Gamba, where he mentioned that we are already working on NIPE 2. So he want to know how the EBR fits with the NAFSIP.
Okay, so the EBR, obviously, it's let's start with the current state. So the EBR system is used to kind of facilitate evaluation as well as gathering of data for the biannual reviews now with the NIPEs that are there. All right. If we go into the Kampala and we develop the national food system investment plans, the EBR is also going to be there. It has to be adapted so that it can link well to accommodate the food system elements. The system elements which are unique to the Kampala. So that
now,
one.
last follow-up. In terms of data collection, how do you see the farmers being involved into this whole system, like the AI that you mentioned, the EBR?
Yeah.
that is an issue, and also how do you make it inclusive with the farmers?
To be frank, I love citizen science also, and farmers are a source of that. You can utilize them to do lots of things. I think to be able to, because we are reporting in most cases at the national aggregated level, we might think that it's not possible. But I think if we can, for some indicators, design careful or encourage countries to design careful surveys, then that is an entry point for farmers to come in there to participate. And if you have AI, you can embed it into, say, mobile phones, etc. They can just start really collecting data as they do their day-to-day businesses. I'm thinking of many things, productivity data, for example.
So basically, hearing from you,
Possible.
question number one, AI could be utilized. Question number two,
Yes.
Kenya in developing its NAPSIP, based maybe on the readjustment of the EBR, will be able at some point of time to use it.
Yes.
Number three, farmers could be associated to data collection in the new cycle. So
Yes,
let me maybe move to John and ask John maybe to address the question on how to ensure systemic investment at national level. And also, while you are it, John, I want you to maybe just rapidly. I know this question is more relevant to Boaz, but he has spoken at length. But I want also to have your perspective on the benefit that accrue to BR linked to policy. Like how do we link BR outcome to policy? Based on your knowledge, I know Boaz already has spoken to it at length already.
Yeah, that's his thing. That's Boaz's thing. On the how to invest, how to support invest on national knowledge food system setup. One thing that we need all to agree on is, yes, it is very expensive to generate knowledge, but ignorance is even more expensive. Ignorance is very expensive because, when you are dealing with limited resources, you are better off to have the knowledge that will help you to, refine targeting. So if we agree on that, then the same budget that is allocated for food system transformation should also be used to finance knowledge support system. We have the target of $100 billion in the next 10 years, right? Within those $110 billion, there must be a good chunk to support the knowledge system, because that's will help you. And then going to the next, linking with the next question on what is the value addition of EBR. In the piece that we did with Titi, we highlight some of the how countries are adopting findings coming out of the EBR. But the bottom line is that with additional knowledge, when you increase the quality of knowledge, you improve the refinement of your interventions, and you are more likely to achieve the target because of that knowledge than a country that doesn't have that knowledge. So that is the proof is really at the end of the process. Even at the individual level, if today you have one person with knowledge and the other person without the knowledge, and you follow the trajectory of the two, there is, a high probability that the one with knowledge will at least hit the target that he or she decided to achieve. So that's what I would say.
Maybe last one. Let me ask Boaz, maybe in 90 seconds to maybe react maybe to the comment made by Christian Tembo. He was talking about maybe some very specific thematic issues on irrigation system, how those thematic issues will help to change the narratives in terms of locally adapted policies. And he also mentioned the issue of mechanization. I just want to have maybe quickly, based on the experience of AGRA, to tell us how now those thematic issues are either in conflict or in alignment with the new Kampala
I think they're in alignment, but Hamad, Chair, if you can allow me just briefly to talk about Paul Tembo's question, add my voice to what Greenwood has just mentioned and John.
Sure.
Linking the BR to national planning processes, and especially NAIP design or NAFCP design. I think for me, what I hear from him is a call to action. After Kampala, we need, and I think under the leadership of AU NEPAD, to rush the account whose tenure for NAIPS is due for revision. If they miss the opportunity of the domestication, basically the call to action here is that run with the domestication as fast as possible. Start with countries that are ready to design their NAIPS, because if the train leaves, then you'll be stampering and following them, and you'll not ever get them. For those countries that are ready for their NAIP design, just like Kenya, the domestication needs to move faster, bring in the toolkits of analytical and modeling capability as fast as possible, because today, these countries are now looking out to donors who have money for funding experts who are not linked to the BR work to support them. So they are chasing money and in-country capabilities, and they are not looking at being guided by the continental framework that's still fresh just a few months ago. So the call to action of rushing the process, the domestication process into countries, at least those are ready, and I knew a few of them. But let me go to your question of how do we really link and bring on board some of these programmatic thematic issues, irrigation. If you look at the decision number, the commitment number 1, Kampala decision, it speaks about strengthening input systems. Before you go into agro-industrialization and trade, which is part of those, because I think that particular decision has 3 bigger commitments in them. One is about production productivity as a push factor, raising the volume of agricultural goods and services so that if trade happens, they find what to produce. And those require a lot of systems building. And I think the word system is not a mere word, an English word. It's about look at the seed system. What does a system mean? It means that you need to make sure that you understand the elements of the seed system that is functional in every country. The breeding, the variety release, the early generation seed, the commercial seed production, the farm awareness, all must work. If the research organizations are not functional, if the varieties are not being released, that will not work. So let me leave the seed system. The point that he mentioned, irrigation. You can have the right seed, you can have the right fertilizer, but the moment you don't respond to actions that are not dependent on nature, rain, and do large-scale irrigation, rehabilitate existing irrigation schemes, making sure that even those that are not rehabilitatable are new, are established, and they are done state-of-the-art. And this is not actually science. I've just come back from Brazil, and we were recently in Vietnam, and you could really see, climate-sensitive, laser-guided irrigation facilities that most of Africa countries have learned, but they are not being scaled up the way they need to be to build the production productivity element into scale. And that's just one example. So I think what Christian Tembo's question is speaking about is that take these particular commitments, what they mean, and pack them for a country's own commitment. Look at the opportunities and make sure that they are not integrated in their national investment plans, but you are partnering with investors. Today, irrigation is a high-cost investment. That's why the countries go to the World Bank, go to IFAD, go to African Development Bank to borrow, because NGOs don't invest in these large-scale investment capabilities. So I think that requires a lot of commitment. And it goes back to my point, take this debate into the country. We want parliamentarians to be debating this on a regular basis.
Yes, so thank you. I think we get the point that you are trying to make. Again, let me apologize to our participant. The discussion was very, very intense and interesting. That's why we lost track of time. We have gone 5 minutes beyond the time that we were supposed to end this webinar. So as we approach our end of the session, I would like just to take a moment to reflect on maybe 3 points that I, at least on my end, that I have taken as a note, not the summary of the whole thing. So first, we have emphasized on the importance of data-driven decision-making. The insights shared by both our panelists, by the opening segment, highlight how robust data collection and analysis are crucial for shaping effective policies in agri-food system. So the question kept on coming and it was recurring. So the lesson that we have learned really from the BR process underscore really the need for continuous improvement in our data processes to better inform our decision moving forward. So that, for me, that's the first things I got from this whole webinar. The second thing I have also picked up in listening to all of you is the issue of collaborative engagement. Strengthening partnership among stakeholders, local organization. I mean, we just saw the question on how do we involve farmers in data collection. Policy makers and research, this is vital. So effective advocacy also and communication as really highlighted by Boaz, effort are essential for enhancing stakeholder engagement and driving basically policy under Kampala. The last one is that we need to translate all those insights from the BR into action. So we have to link really the BR data have to inform our policies and our action on the ground. It is crucial. It is critical that we develop the different platform. Some even talked about really decentralized platform at the local level. John talked about clusters that we need to develop at country level. So we need to develop those platform and initiatives that can transform complex research findings into actionable messages that resonate with the government leaders. Okay, so this translation will be key in achieving some of the goals. So let me maybe at this point invite Getao Tadisi to take the floor and close the session for us. Getao, you have the floor.
Thank you, Dr. Hamadi. And it's really, you already summarized it very well. I think you took my takeaway message.
Sorry about that. That was not the intention.
No, that's okay. those good minds, I mean, it's okay. Yeah. So I just want to thank you very much for handling this webinar. It was really a learning every time we meet with all the experts we have, and we learn a lot of things. And thank you, the panelists. Thank you for the presenters, and John, Boaz, Greenwell, for your insights, and also the presenters like Augustine, our colleagues Itzi and Wandosan, and also for the welcoming address from our longtime friend Jazid Turkey, and also His Excellency Musafari from Auda Nepat. Thank you all for your contribution and insights. So this, I think I also want to repeat what Dr. Hamadi was saying. I mean, the first takeaway message is the role of data and analytics. And there is no question about it, but we have to improve it. And this is very critically important at this age because of the Kampala that has been approved in January, and then it has to be domesticated. And someone has emphasized that we have to be very fast and help countries to domesticate with diagnostic studies and analytical supports, and also creating some awareness and all these things. I think that has been emphasized by the panelists as well as the welcome speakers of our friends. And also His Excellency Musafari has explained about the importance of generating data, but not only generation, but also helping countries to use the data. I mean, they have to use this data for informing their policies and all these things. So the second point is about understanding and promoting the Kampala. I think that's why Dr. Augustine was presenting, refreshing us what is the content of the Kampala Declaration, and what are the issues there, what makes different from the others, why we need Kampala, and all those things. And then Boaz lately say that advocacy and beyond the experts, beyond the expert within us is critically important. And also, I like the answer that was given by John on the targets. It's only time tells. So these targets have been set based on experience and based on our aspirations. That is there. But whether we will achieve or not, only time tells. But at the same time, our effort is also critically important. And we have to put effort on the different pathways that the panelists have been talking about. The third one is about the BR. I think Tsitsi has told us about how BR is helping for some countries, example of some countries to change their policies and programs. But that's not as much as we expected. There are so many gaps there within the BR. And I think in many cases, BR system is understaffed and underfunded, and countries are not investing enough for data and all these things. So I think Greenwell was suggesting that institutionalization and integration of the BR to the National Agriculture Planning and Review System is critically important. That's where we can make a difference. That's where we can institutionalize the BR system, and then we get good data and good reports from member states. And then the fourth one is broader, I mean, in terms of data. I think Wendosan was talking about how to really improve and empower research. Research, I mean, if you all remember that research was the one that brings us together to help the implementation of Maputo, to the Malabo, and also now Kampala. So I think it's one of the academia flagship. It used to be with EFRI, and then when we moved to academia, and now it's an institution within academia. So I think we have to also empower. This is not academia's only program. It's a collaboration between EFRI, a collaboration between EUMI, and all other stakeholders. So I think we have to bring this as a key player for data and analytics. And also we have to think of reinstating the research nodes that used to be there during the Maputo eras. So I think data clustering can go with this, and the local analysis network. And those are, I mean, some of the issues that we have to rethink collaboratively together among our experts and our institutions and all these things. And finally, the agri-food system transformation. I think this is where I think some of our panelists have given us some thoughts. So I think Kampala marks the shift from agricultural transformation to agri-food system transformation in Africa. That is the fact we have at least in our declarations. But how we can achieve it, I think many of us are convinced that the governance, because agri-food system transformation is a multi-stakeholder and a disciplinary issue, then the governance system is critically important. So we have to focus on the best way of governing agri-food system transformation so that we can achieve our goals. So I think these are the takeaway message I just captured from the discussion. And I want to again thank you all the participants, and for those who have put out your comments and suggestions, and for organizing all these things. So with this remark, I give the floor to, I don't know, to Lai or Hamadi.
Not to Lai.
Back to you. I don't know, because I saw her video. Okay, back to you.
Lai, I'm assuming the meeting is adjourned, right?
Yeah, it's over. Thank you so much.
It's over. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
This is the closing remark. I was just summarizing that. But thank you, and thank you, Lai, for organizing these things. I think that's all from my side.
Wonderful. Thanks, Getao, and of course, thank you to Hamadi and our excellent chair and moderator, and to all of our speakers. As we said in the beginning, we will be sending you the links to the 3 policy briefs, as well as the PowerPoint presentations. Visit academia2063.org and check out our portal on the Kampala CAADP series. Until next time, take care. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.